I've been giving it a bit of thought and I want to redo 5th edition because I like it, but there's also a bunch of things I don't like about it. Wizards is already giving it a shot, but I don't really like their version, the 1D&D, and large amounts of 5e are in Creative Commons, so I have the legal ability to rewrite the system and sell it as 5e compatible. So let's start with some important points, basically laying out the groundwork, then I'll move to the first element, which is dwarves. This is hopefully so you'll understand some of the decisions I make. I like my systems tying to lore, and one of the biggest things that has been bugging me about 1D&D is the attempt to basically remove lore from the core rules because multiverse blah 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 blah. So I'm going to focus on giving a spin on each element, giving lore a heavy priority. Additionally, I am leaning into my personal taste for what elements I add or change. Put simply, what I view as an improvement won't necessarily be something you like, and that's fine and dandy. You can look at it and you can contrast it, maybe you can write your own with me. And finally, classes and sub-races only have one throughout the entire SRD, so as we walk through I'll need to try and fill in extras towards what I like, and any flavor text will also need to be made up from scratch. Let's start with the beginning, not dwarves, but the entire setup for races. Yeah, groundwork takes a minute. First off, the use of the term race as of recording is somewhat controversial topic within the TTRPG community. I think terms can have more than one definition. We will be using the term race for this rewrite. Race refers to fictional creatures that resemble humans in intellect and social behavior, but often have changes in physical and cultural traits, normally as a result of magic or divine interference. In some cases, I may refer to races as demi-humans, which shares that same definition. Next, I'm changing ability score increase to ability score changes. We will be introducing negative ability scores. I see no reason why, if some races are more capable in strength, for example, than the average human, that no one is inclined to the reverse on any scores. The writers of 5e voided the negatives from previous editions, I believe, to increase the ability to assign races and classes without worrying about optimizing, but the opportunity cost is present whether or not you add the negatives. This is likely part of what led into them cutting it from 1D&D entirely, but I believe this is a touch core to the archetype of D&D, and cutting it drifts it too far from what the game originally was. Additionally, the negatives will only be one ability point, which I'm thinking about introducing backgrounds, giving back a point somewhere else. Last notable bit before we get to the dwarves is alignment. D&D is polytheistic, which means that almost everything is associated with a deity creating them. Good deities will, as a general rule, give their creations free will and the ability to choose between good and evil. Evil deities won't, and their races are functionally slaves without the possibility of freedom. All playable races will have this free will. It's just worth explaining the difference between the player races and the evil races for my version of the game. So what are Sorry, what did I just say? So what are There's a lot of flavor text to replace and consider, and I think we should start with this version of the game's dwarvish god, who we will be calling Aaron because I kind of like the sound of it. Let's try for a moment some narration. Within the tunnels of the earth, the dwarves were made from stone with veins made of molten metal. Life was breathed into them by Aaron, a god of work and efficiency. They were imbued with the love of crafting. They desire something that will outlive them, be a business, a sword, a family. They live in caves where they feel the most comfortable, and normally over subterranean lakes which they fill with pumps and use to produce running water, which can clear their hands of soot and dirt. First off, there's not a ton on the god yet, but we will need to keep that in mind as we build forward and make him more advanced as we add to the game. This should happen with all the deities that we introduce, and we should tie them into other elements. Second off, I think having dwarves value cleaning could actually make a decent trait. This is mostly maintenance and control of disease. Additionally, as part of their love of work and proficiency, they are very direct and blunt, spending less time in conversation, leading to a -1 to charisma, echoing the score reduction from early editions. I also added an additional 1 damage per strike to weapons from Dwarven combat training to make it a touch better. I will be doing this with more weapon elements as we move forward because weapons always fall behind in damage, and that is a notable flaw. I will also make a sub-race. I'm calling it the Crystal Dwarf for now. You were born attuned to crystals of the earth. You get a wizard's cantrip, and you can swap this with any other wizard cantrip if you are near a crystal of at least 50 gold pieces. If not, You can make do with your current cantrip, it's fine. You can also use crystals as a spellcasting focus and get a charisma boost countering the previous deduction, and this will be my spiciest choice for the rewrite. I will be race locking classes. This sub-race will let you become a sorcerer. Natural dwarves can't. Hopefully before you find a pitchfork you understand I want lore tying every element together. Sorcerers will be sub-race exclusive to everyone but elves and gnomes. I want to make sorcerers something a bit more specific. If you are going to be born with magic, I just want to touch more detail. Post-production edition, I want to make a lot more sub-races. For now we're stopping at 2, but ideally I want to move them all to have 6 sub-races, 1 for each ability score. I have placed what I currently have on my website, though it's not much, and I hope to see you next week, but the only way for that to happen is the subscribe button below. We will be covering elves.